What did you scroll past 15 minutes ago? Not the last video, not the last reel, the one before that. You don't remember, do you? You spent actual minutes of your life watching something, and your brain threw it in the trash before you even finished. Gone. Like it never happened. Now ask yourself, if your brain can't even hold on to a 30-second reel, what do you think it's doing to the chapter you studied last night? Here's a fact that's going to sit with you for a while. The average human attention span in 2004 was 36 seconds. In 2026, 8 seconds. You know what animal has 9 seconds? A goldfish. You are now officially less focused than something with a brain the size of a pea. And no, that's not a motivational poster quote. That's from a Microsoft research study. So the question isn't, are phones bad for you? The question is, how much damage has already been done? Can you reverse it? And how fast? That's exactly what this video is going to answer. I'm going to show you what's physically happening inside your brain every time you pick up your phone. I'm going to break down the one experiment that made scientists panic about what screens are doing to teenage brains. And at the very end, I'm going to give you something I've never shared before. A focus method originally developed for CIA operatives to lock their brain onto a single task for hours, that I've modified for students. It sounds dramatic, but trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why it works. Don't skip ahead. The method only makes sense after you understand the damage. The night I caught my own brain lying to me. Before the science, let me tell you what happened to me. Because this isn't some random topic I picked, this hit me personally. 1 a.m., boards in 3 months. I opened my phone to check one message. Classic, right? That's the Indian student version of, I'll start studying after this episode. One message turned into one reel. One reel turned into that weird rabbit hole where you're watching a guy restore a rusty axe at 2 a.m. and you don't even know how you got there. I don't even own an axe. But here's the part that freaked me out. When I put the phone down and went back to studying, my brain just wouldn't work. My eyes were reading words, but nothing was going in, like a geo connection in a basement. I read the same paragraph 4 times, 0 retention. It felt like someone had pulled a plug inside my head. And for the longest time, I thought that was laziness. I thought I was the problem. Discipline nahi hai tujhme. That voice in your head, right? But it's not laziness. It's not a motivation problem. What happened to me that night has a name. And when I found out what it was, everything changed. Your brain has a loyalty problem. Your brain has this feature called neuroplasticity. Basically, it physically rewires itself based on what you do repeatedly. It's how you learn to ride a cycle, how you memorize that periodic table song, how you can type your crush's name without looking at the keyboard. Your brain builds highways for whatever you practice most. Now, here's the part your biology teacher skipped. Your brain doesn't care where the highway leads. It doesn't judge. So when you scroll reels 4 hours a day, your brain goes, "Oh, we're doing this now? Cool. Let me build a 6-lane expressway for short dopamine hits and a dirt road for," what was it? Oh yeah, studying. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what happens in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus, planning, and decision-making. And this is where the one experiment I promised you comes in. Researchers at the University of Texas did something beautifully cruel. They took 800 people and gave them a cognitive test, the kind that measures raw brain power. But here's the twist. They split them into 3 groups. Group 1 had their phone on the desk, face down. Group 2 had their phone in their pocket. Group 3 had their phone in another room entirely. Same test, same time, same conditions. Everything identical except where the phone was. The result? Group 3 destroyed the other 2. And Group 1, the ones with the phone on the desk, performed the worst, even though they never touched it. Not once. The phone just sat there, face down, silent, and it still stole their brain power. The researchers called it brain drain. Your mind uses cognitive energy just knowing the phone is nearby, resisting the urge you don't even consciously feel. So every time you sit down to study with your phone on the table thinking, I won't check it, you've already lost. You're writing your exam with 20% of your brain whispering, bro, what if someone tagged you in a meme? The slot machine you carry everywhere. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but why is it this hard to just not check it? And that's the real question, isn't it? Every app on your phone was designed by people whose literal job title is attention engineer. These are Stanford and MIT graduates who sat in a room and asked one question: how do we make a 16-year-old unable to put this down? And the answer they found? The same psychology behind slot machines. It's called a variable reward schedule. Sometimes you pull to refresh and there's a fire notification. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes the reel is mid. Sometimes it's so funny you screenshot it for your group chat. That randomness is the addiction. If every reel was funny, you'd get bored. If none were funny, you'd leave. But because you never know which scroll hits, you keep scrolling. Your brain releases dopamine not when you get the reward, but in anticipation of maybe getting one. That maybe is doing all the heavy lifting. Now compare that to studying. You open your NCERT, Chapter 4, Chemical Bonding. Is there a surprise dopamine hit on page 3? Is there a variable reward? No, it's just information. Predictable, consistent information. Your brain compares that to the slot machine in your pocket and says, nahi bhai, boring. Not because chemistry is actually boring, but because your dopamine baseline has been cranked so high by your phone that normal things can't compete anymore. This is why you can binge 3 hours of content about topics you've never cared about, but can't sit with your own textbook for 30 minutes. It's not a discipline problem. It's a brain chemistry problem. And you built it one scroll at a time. The CIA Focus Protocol, modified for students. All right, enough damage. Let's talk repair, because this is the part I promised you, and this is the part that's going to actually change your next exam score. During the Cold War, CIA operatives needed to process massive amounts of intelligence, documents, maps, intercepted messages, for hours without a single lapse in concentration. One mistake could literally get people killed. So the agency developed what insiders called single-channel focus. The idea that the human brain doesn't actually multitask, it task switches, and every switch costs you 23 minutes to get back to full depth. 23 minutes. So if you check your phone just twice during a study session, you've lost nearly an hour of deep focus. Not phone time, recovery time. Here's how I modified their method for students. It's 3 steps. Step 1, the room rule. Your phone goes in a different room, not flipped over, not on silent, a different room. Remember the Texas experiment. Your brain can't resist what it can't sense. Remove the battlefield entirely. You cannot defeat a billion-dollar algorithm with willpower. That's like bringing a plastic sword to a tank fight. Step 2, the 30-second buffer. This is for moments when you're not studying but still want to reduce the grip. When you feel the urge to grab your phone, you wait 30 seconds. Don't fight the urge, just wait. The craving peaks at about 20 seconds and drops. But you've never waited long enough to discover that because you always grab the phone within 3 seconds. The 30-second buffer is like watching a scary wave rush toward you and realizing it was never that big. Step 3, the single-channel block. Study in 50-minute blocks with one subject, one task, one chapter. No switching between chem and physics. No, let me just quickly check that formula from another chapter. One channel. When the CIA guys processed documents, they didn't flip between 3 briefings. They went deep on one until it was done. Your brain builds momentum in a single lane. Every switch resets the meter to 0. I started doing this 3 months before my exams. First week was painful. My brain was throwing tantrums like a toddler in Big Bazaar. But by week 2, I could sit for 50 minutes and actually understand what I was reading instead of just staring at pages like a goat staring at a new gate. By week 3, I was finishing chapters in one sitting. Not because I became smarter, but because I stopped leaking brain power through my phone. You're already ahead of 90%. If you've made it this far, you're not the average viewer. Most people scrolled away in the first 30 seconds, probably to check the notification they just got. The fact that you're still here tells me you actually want to change. And that matters more than any technique. This channel exists for one reason: to give students like you the cheat codes that nobody teaches in school. Not just study tips, but how your brain actually works, how to game your own psychology, how to turn the system in your favor. If you're between 9th and 12th right now, or grinding through college, subscribe and hit that bell. Not for me. For the version of you who opens this channel during exam season and thinks, "Thank God past me subscribed." And share this video with that one friend who picks up their phone every 4 minutes during group study. You know exactly who I'm talking about. We all have that friend. Today, be the reason they finally get it. Try the 3-step protocol for 7 days. Track your screen time before and after. Come back and comment what changed. I read every single one.